first story for any new Doctor is always a bit of a gamble. Traditionally, the Doctor takes a while to recover from their regeneration, so their debut can often be a throwaway romp before their era really starts with their second story. Castrovalva is one of the better ones, amping up the post-regeneration trauma and making it the whole focus of the story. And it's a strong start to the new era. The first 2 episodes are quite unusual, as they mainly feature just the regular cast, which is not a bad idea, as there's quite a lot of them now. Peter Davison's Doctor is very different to Tom Baker's right off the bat. He's much more fragile and vulnerable now, and it must have been quite disturbing for children of the time to see their hero in such a state. Adric is barely in the whole story, as he's been captured by the Master and strung up in a web. This only becomes apparent later on, as a version of Adric enters the TARDIS and programs it to fly right into the Big Bang. But you only find out later that this wasn't the real Adric, which feels like a bit of a cheat. So Nyssa and Tegan are basically the main characters for these first 2 episodes, and they make a good team. Nyssa's all calm and logical, while Tegan's much more emotional, and you can see them forging the friendship that would endure until Nyssa left. There's quite a lot of padding in these episodes. Episode 1 features a lot of wandering around TARDIS corridors, which all look pretty much identical, and episode 2 has the characters wandering around the countryside. It looks like they're having a good time, but it all feels a bit stretched out. And once they finally get to Castrovalva, halfway through the story, the plot finally starts to get going. It's a beautifully designed location based on Escher paintings, and some of the visual tricks they do are quite impressive for the time, although the movie Labyrinth did it a lot better a few years later. There are a lot of characters suddenly introduced in part 3. Shadavam the Librarian is signposted as the bad guy, but it turns out to be just a red herring, while Murgrave the Kindly Doctor is played by Michael Shade. He gives a strong performance despite the brief screen time, but he's been in the show almost as many times as Susan Twist, so maybe they should have got someone a bit less recognisable. Speaking of familiar faces, the other major character is the Portreeve, who looks exactly like the Master in unconvincing old age makeup, and sure enough he turns out to be the Master in disguise. I can't remember if I was fooled as a child, but it seemed incredibly obvious to adult eyes, and the Master does the same trick in virtually all of the appearances from now on. So I'll have to keep track of just how convincing his disguises are. This is a Christopher Bidmead script, so there are lots of complicated scientific concepts, like telebiogenesis and recursive occlusion. I'm not sure I understand most of them, but they seem a lot more convincing than the type of technobabble you get in Star Trek. The idea of Castrovalva being an artificially created city with a forged history and impossible geography is a strong sci-fi concept. Perhaps it would have worked better if they'd spent a few more episodes there before the trap was sprung. It would have been a lot more shocking if they'd been there since episode 1. Still, the new Doctor manages to recover just in time to escape with his new gang, and he gets enough heroic moments towards the end to show that he's just as capable as he was before, just not the all-powerful godlike figure that he's been in recent years. The DVD has more than an hour of extras. The longest one is a 20-minute clip from Swap Shop, where Peter Davison talks about his memories of watching the first 2 Doctors, gives away a ton of merch, which looks amazing, and he talks to some kids on the phone, including one who claims to be called Susan Windows. Yeah, nice try, but I can see right through that one. There's a 9-minute clip from Blue Peter, 6 minutes of which is spent showing clips from old Doctor Who episodes. Then he interviewed Peter for 3 minutes, but it's before he started filming, so he can't say much. Directing Castrovalva is a 13-minute feature, where Fiona Cumming gives her memories of filming the story, both on location and in the studio. Being Doctor Who is a 13-minute interview with a slightly older Peter Davison. He talks about being cast, a bit about Castrovalva, and then quite a lot about Caves of Androzani. All with the benefit of about 20 years of hindsight. The Crowded TARDIS is an 11-minute feature about the new TARDIS crew, with Christopher Bidmead and Peter Davison giving their thoughts, and brief appearances from Tom Baker and Sarah Sutton, but not the other 2 companions for some reason. Finally, there's 2 short deleted scenes, which are nothing special. Overall, it's a slow-moving but fascinating tale, introducing the new Doctor in some style. I'll give it 8. Next up is 4 to Doomsday, but before that I will be covering a Big Finish audio that takes place in the gap between these 2 stories. So press subscribe to keep following my journey through 80s Who, and I'll see you next time.